this is an explanation for question number 6 out of 11 on the calculator section of the Algebra 1 PBA practice test. The question here asks us, what is one solution for the equation x squared minus 21.75x equals negative 15.75? Okay, you'll have access to a calculator, so your one option is to sit there and guess and check. And it's possible you could come up with the answer. You could just start testing some numbers and see if it's too big of a number, too small of a number, etc. The method that I think they want you to demonstrate that you can use here by giving you this question is they want you to demonstrate that you can use the quadratic formula. Okay, the quadratic formula is typically taught in the 4th quarter of the school year. And the quadratic formula says that if you have any equation that is a quadratic equation, in other words, x squared is the highest exponent we have on x. If the equation fits this form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are the coefficients, they're the numbers, okay, then we can conclude this, that x for that equation will always equal the opposite of whatever b is, plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. That whole sum or difference is then divided by 2 times whatever a is in that equation. So for this equation that we're given in the problem, if I add 15.75 on both sides, then my equation would be this: 1x squared minus 21.75x plus 15.75 is equal to 0. And so a is 1, b is negative 21.75, and c is 15.75. So if I use this equation that I told you over here to the left, with those 3 values plugged in, I'm going to have this. X is equal to the opposite of negative 21.75 plus and minus the square root of negative 21.75 quantity squared, squaring a negative number there, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times b, which is 15.75, and that whole quantity there needs to then be divided by 2 times a, which is 1. So at this point, this is a calculator question. You can type the entire expression that's under the parenthesis, or sorry, under the radical. This whole thing can be typed into your calculator, your online calculator. Put parentheses around this negative number before squaring it. But if you put that all in your calculator, here's what you'll have. First of all, the opposite of negative 21.75. That becomes positive 21.75. And then we have a plus and a minus sign. I'll explain in just a second. Under the radical there, if you take the square root of all that, type all of that under a square root, you should get the decimal 20.25. And that whole thing, that sum or difference, needs to then be divided by 2. So what does this mean, this whole plus and minus thing? Basically, at this point, when I instruct on this, what I will tell you to do is to take 21.75 plus 20.25 and divide by 2. and I'll say to take 21.75 minus 20.25 and divide by 2. And that will give you the two solutions to this equation. In one case, we get 21, and in the other case, we get 0.75. Okay, typing all of these things on the calculator requires some expertise. You would have to put parentheses around 21.75 plus 20.25, and then divide by 2 if you're going to type that in all at once. Or you would need to find the sum, hit equals, and then take that answer and divide by 2, so be careful about that. And again, back up to this big radical expression, getting this value. If you were typing that into a calculator, you would put the radical button, and these graphing calculators will automatically give you an opening set of parentheses, and then you would need to put the negative 21.75 in parentheses, and then raise it to the second power, minus 4 times 1 times 15.75. And then you could close the parenthesis, and you should, again, that answer should come out as 20.25. So I would practice typing that into a TI-84 if you can borrow one of those or use one during class. So there's the explanation. Again, using the quadratic formula, I would generally think of as more of a fourth quarter skill in Algebra 1. We will do it in the fourth quarter, but there's an explanation if you need that formula, which everyone would need it. No one has that memorized in Algebra 1. Okay, this formula right here, I'm quite sure, is listed if you go and click on the exhibits icon. Let's see, it's over here. I think here it is, right here. Exhibits, if you click on that, you can see the reference sheet that they'll provide for you. That should give you the quadratic formula should you need to use it.